The forest was alive with sound. Birds called to each other from the trees. Insects buzzed in the thick air, and the leaves whispered when the wind passed through. The jungle had hidden many secrets for centuries, and today one of them was about to be found. Rami walked slowly through the dense green, pushing aside hanging vines that brushed against his face. He was the leader of a small exploration team that had come deep into the Central American jungle. They were searching for something unusual, a signal that had been detected by satellite scans months ago. The signal was strange because it did not come from metal or rock. It came from beneath the ground, pulsing like a heartbeat. Behind Rami, 3 others followed. Tari, the geologist, carried her scanning tablet and kept stopping to take readings from the soil. Lian, the linguist, carried a camera and a notebook full of old Mayan symbols. The last member, Nero, was their field engineer, silent but alert, always checking their equipment. The air was hot and wet, and the ground was soft under their boots. After hours of walking, Tari called out. Her scanner was blinking. "Rami, look here," she said. "The readings are higher now. There's something under us about 20 meters down. It's solid, but not stone. The reflection pattern looks metallic." Rami took the device from her hands and stared at the moving lines on the screen. He frowned. "Metal that deep here? That doesn't make sense. There shouldn't be any modern structures in this area." Leon stepped closer, brushing dirt from a nearby rock. "What if it's not modern? The Mayans used to build pyramids in hidden places. Maybe we found one that no one has seen before." Rami smiled slightly. "Then today might be our lucky day." They set up a small camp nearby and began clearing the overgrown plants. As they dug away vines and layers of soil, something strange appeared. It was a wall, smooth and cold to the touch, with patterns carved into it. But the carvings were not ordinary. The lines were thin and perfectly straight, forming shapes that looked almost like circuits. Tari ran her fingers over one of the lines. "This isn't normal carving. It feels like metal fused into the stone. I've never seen anything like it." As night began to fall, they lit lanterns around the site. The wall shimmered slightly in the light, and when the wind blew, a soft hum came from beneath their feet, so low it was almost too faint to hear. Rami crouched down and placed his ear to the ground. "Do you hear that?" he whispered. Leon nodded. "It's like the earth is singing. They decided to rest and start digging again in the morning." The jungle was quiet except for the steady chorus of insects. Rami lay awake in his tent, listening to that faint humming sound through the ground. It was not the sound of wind or water. It was rhythmic, like something alive and waiting. When morning came, the team continued their work. They uncovered more of the structure. Soon it became clear that it wasn't just a wall. It was the site of a massive pyramid, buried under centuries of soil and plants. The steps of the pyramid were wide, covered with moss and roots, but still sharp-edged. Leon carefully brushed dust from a row of symbols near the base. "These are Mayan," she said, tracing the markings. "But some of them are not part of any language I've studied. They look more like mathematical codes or coordinates." Nairo looked up from his tools. "Coordinates? You mean like maps?" "Yes," she said. "But the numbers don't match anything on Earth. They might represent something else entirely." By midday, Tari's scanner began to beep again. She frowned at the screen. "There's something else. Below the pyramid, about 50 meters down. It's dense and giving off strange energy readings. Almost like movement." Rami walked to her side. "Movement? It's not stable," she said. "The readings shift every few seconds. It's like a liquid but metallic." Leon tilted her head. "You mean there's a river of metal under the pyramid?" Tari hesitated, then nodded slowly. "Yes, but not just any metal. The readings match the density of gold." For a moment, everyone was silent. Then Rami let out a quiet laugh. "A river of gold beneath a Mayan pyramid. That sounds like something from a legend." Leon replied softly, "Maybe some legends are true." They decided to open a small tunnel at the pyramid's base to reach the lower layers. It took hours of careful digging. The air grew warmer the deeper they went, and the sound beneath the ground grew stronger. It wasn't just a hum anymore. It was a pulse, deep and steady. At last they reached a hollow space. Rami climbed through first, his lantern lighting the darkness. The chamber inside was large, the walls covered in golden lines that seemed to move under the light. The floor was made of smooth black stone, and in the center was a narrow crack that glowed faintly. Tari stepped beside him. "That light, it's coming from below." That must be the source. They knelt near the crack. Rami held up a small metal probe and slowly lowered it. When it touched the glowing surface below, the light flickered and rose slightly as if reacting. The glow traveled up the probe and made it shine. Nero gasped. It's alive. Or it's reacting to us somehow. The air grew warmer and the hum turned into a soft vibration that ran through their hands and feet. Leon backed away slightly, looking uneasy. We should be careful. This may be sacred ground. Rami nodded but could not look away from the light. Sacred or not, it's been waiting here for someone to find it. They spent the rest of the day studying the chamber. The walls had carvings showing people standing near beams of light and strange symbols that looked like stars. There were no signs of burial or treasure. This place seemed to have been built for something else. As evening came, the golden glow began to rise through the cracks, spreading across the floor like slow-moving water. It did not spill or splash. It moved with purpose, tracing lines that led to the walls. Soon the entire room was softly lit in gold. Tari whispered, "It's beautiful." The golden flow pulsed again, stronger this time. The sound in the ground became clearer, almost musical. Rami felt a strange sense of calm, as though the light was speaking to him without words. Leon slowly stepped forward. The Mayans called gold the blood of the sun. Maybe this is what they meant. A river of golden light beneath their temple. Rami looked at her and nodded. And they built this pyramid not to worship it, but to protect it. Nero examined the walls and pointed to several marks near the top. These looked like vents or conduits. The gold could flow through them like energy channels. This whole place might have been designed to control the flow. As night fell again, they returned to the surface. The jungle looked peaceful under the pale moonlight, but the air carried a faint warmth that had not been there before. Rami turned to look at the pyramid, half revealed, its top still hidden beneath the trees. A soft golden glow shimmered from within the cracks they had opened. Tari came to stand beside him. "Do you think it's dangerous?" Rami shook his head slowly. "I don't think it's dangerous. I think it's alive. Or something inside it is." They all stood in silence, watching as the glow faded gently back into the earth. That night, Rami could not sleep. The hum of the ground seemed louder now, almost like a voice trying to speak through the soil. He stepped outside his tent and looked toward the pyramid. The stars above were bright and clear, and for a moment he thought he saw one of them flicker in rhythm with the pulse he felt beneath his feet. He wondered how long this secret had been sleeping beneath the jungle. How many generations had walked over it, never knowing that below them flowed a river made of pure light and gold. When morning came, he woke the others early. "We'll go deeper today," he said. "We've only seen the surface of what's here." Tari checked her scanner, which now glowed faintly even when turned off. "The readings are rising on their own," she said quietly. "Whatever's down there is waking up." Rami took one last look at the pyramid. The vines that covered it now seemed to shimmer faintly, reflecting golden light from below. The forest itself felt changed, as if aware of their presence. He turned to his team and said, "Let's find out what the Mayans built, and why they built it above a river of gold." They gathered their tools and walked back toward the shining stone steps, unaware that the discovery waiting below would change not only history, but their understanding of what it meant to be human. Morning light slipped through the trees, painting the pyramid in gold and green. Mist floated low above the ground, and the air was cool for a short time before the heat returned. Rami stood near the base of the pyramid, looking up at the part they had cleared yesterday. His thoughts were restless. He could still feel the gentle hum under the ground, steady and alive. Tari was checking her scanner again. The screen showed brighter lines than before. "The energy reading has doubled since yesterday," she said softly. "It is spreading outward through the soil." Leon looked up from her notebook. "That means the pyramid is active now. Maybe it woke up because we opened the chamber." Rami nodded. "Then we go deeper today. We need to know what this place really is." They prepared their gear and re-entered the tunnel they had dug at the base. The air inside was warmer than before, almost like it was breathing. The light from their lamps reflected off the smooth walls, showing golden veins that moved faintly, as if something inside was flowing. Nero led the way, using his small drone to check the path ahead. The machine floated through the tunnel, sending images back to his tablet. "It opens up again about 30 meters forward," he said. "There's another chamber down there." The group moved carefully. Dust rose around their feet and every step echoed softly. When they reached the next chamber, the space opened wide above them. The walls curved upward, covered in carvings and symbols that shimmered faintly under their lights. Leon stepped closer and brushed her fingers along one of the carvings. It showed people standing in a line, raising their hands toward beams of light coming from the sky. Above them were shapes that looked like stars or small suns. These symbols, Leon whispered, tell a story. The people in the carvings called the light sunblood. They believed it came from the heavens to give life to the earth. Rami looked at her. Sunblood. Maybe that is what the Golden River is. Tari placed her scanner near the ground and frowned. There is a deep cavity below us and it's full of something that moves. I think that's our river. They began to clear dust and small rocks from the center of the floor. Soon they uncovered a circular stone lid. It was carved with the same golden lines as the walls, and a soft glow came from the gaps around its edge. Nero ran his hand along the rim. This looks like a seal, he said. Maybe it's covering a passage. Rami crouched down beside him. Can you open it safely? Nero thought for a moment, then nodded. If we lift it slowly, yes. They fixed metal hooks to the edges and used ropes to pull. The lid moved with a deep sound like the sigh of a sleeping giant. Warm light spilled out from the opening, bathing their faces in gold. Tari stepped closer and gasped. It's beautiful. They all leaned over the edge. Beneath them flowed a river of pure glowing gold. The liquid moved gently, forming smooth waves that shimmered like sunlight on water. It was not molten or hot. Instead, it looked cool and alive, spreading soft light across the stone walls below. Leon whispered, "The river of gold is real." Rami's heart raced. He had seen strange things in his career, but nothing like this. The light was soft yet powerful, and it seemed to respond to their presence. When they moved, the flow rippled more brightly as if watching them. Tari lowered a sensor probe into the light. The instant it touched the surface, the gold began to form circles and patterns around it. The scanner lit up and numbers raced across the screen faster than she could read. It's reacting, she said quickly. It's reading the sensor, it's understanding it. Rami looked down at the river. Then this is not just metal. It's something intelligent. They watched as the golden current continued to form symbols in the air, glowing shapes that hovered for a few seconds before fading. Some of the symbols matched the carvings on the walls. Leon began sketching them quickly. These are the same markings that appear in the upper chamber. The Mayans must have seen this long ago. They must have believed it was the blood of their gods. The golden current suddenly pulsed, sending a faint vibration through the stone. Their lamps flickered for a moment, then steadied. It was not threatening. It was as if the river was breathing. Rami stood silently, trying to understand what they were seeing. If this is energy, he said, then the pyramid was built to contain or guide it. Maybe it powered something. Tari looked around. The walls of this chamber are lined with channels. The gold could move through them like veins carrying power to the surface. Leon turned to him. But who built it? The Mayans could not have created this on their own. The designs are too precise, too advanced. Rami's gaze lingered on the flowing light. Maybe they didn't build it alone. They decided to record everything before disturbing the flow again. Nero set up cameras around the chamber, while Tari took samples from the edges of the stone. Each time her tools touched the surface, a soft spark of light followed her hand. After an hour, Leon called them over. I think I found something. She pointed to a panel near the wall where the carvings changed shape. Instead of human figures, there were tall forms with long arms and smooth, rounded heads. Their eyes were large and shaped like ovals. These beings, she said quietly, are not human. The Mayans must have drawn them to represent their visitors. Rami studied the carvings. Visitors from where? She looked back at the glowing river. From the stars, the chamber grew quiet. Even the sound of the flowing gold seemed to slow, as if listening. After a long silence, Rami said, If that's true, then this place is more than an ancient site. It's a message, one that was left for us to find. Tari nodded slowly. And maybe the river is the message itself. As the afternoon passed, the light from the river began to shift. The glow turned softer, fading from bright gold to pale amber. Then the wall started to shimmer with faint symbols that moved slowly like ripples. Leon gasped as she saw them take form. They're showing us something, she said. These are not just decorations, and they're instructions. The shapes on the walls began to form images. pyramids shining under the stars, people carrying small orbs of light, and finally, beams rising from the earth toward the sky. Nero whispered, "It's a story." Rami nodded. "It's telling us what happened here." They watched as the images continued. The last one showed the same river flowing upward, turning into a golden thread that connected the earth to the stars. Then the light faded and the walls went dark again. Tari let out a slow breath. "I think we just saw the history of this place," Rami said, "and the river is trying to remind us." They climbed back up to the surface before nightfall. The jungle was quiet, but the air carried a faint golden glow that seemed to come from the ground itself. Birds had stopped singing, and even the wind felt still. As they rested near their campfire, Leon spoke softly. "I think the pyramid was never meant to be a tomb. It was a connection point. The Mayans built it to keep the river safe until someone came who could understand it." Rami stared into the fire. "Then maybe we were meant to find it." Tari looked at him. "But if it's a message, what does it want from us?" He shook his head. "We'll find out when we go deeper. The answers are still below." That night, as they slept, the golden glow rose faintly through the soil, spreading outward from the pyramid like light through water. It reached their tents and touched their tools, leaving tiny traces that flickered before fading. Rami woke for a moment, sensing warmth in the air. He stepped outside and looked at the pyramid. A thin beam of golden light ran from its top toward the sky, disappearing into the stars. It lasted only a few seconds, then was gone. He stood there in silence, his heart full of wonder. Whatever this place was, it was alive and aware. The Mayans had built the pyramid not to trap it, but to protect it. When dawn came, Rami gathered his team again. "We're going back tomorrow," he said firmly. "The river showed us part of its story. Now we need to know the rest." The others nodded. Leanne closed her notebook carefully. Tari looked at the pyramid with shining eyes. Nero checked the equipment again, though his hands trembled slightly. The sun rose over the trees, and for a moment, it looked as if the pyramid itself glowed with its light. Beneath it, the golden river waited, patient, ancient, and alive, ready to reveal the next secret to those who dared to listen. The next morning came quietly. Sunlight slipped through the mist, and the forest looked calm as if nothing unusual had happened. But under that calm, the ground still hummed faintly. The air felt charged with warmth, like the world was waiting. Rami stood at the edge of the pyramid, studying the carvings they had uncovered. Golden veins now ran farther across the stones than before, spreading like roots. "The light is growing," he said softly. "It's moving upward." Tari checked her scanner. "You're right. The energy is rising from the lower chambers toward the top. It's like the whole pyramid is waking up." Leon looked uneasy. "Should we stop it?" "What if it's dangerous?" Rami turned to her. "If it meant harm, it would have shown that already. I think it's calling us to understand it." They packed their gear again and entered the tunnel. The air inside was warmer now and glowed faintly, even without their lamps. The walls seemed alive, breathing with light that pulsed slowly, matching the rhythm of their footsteps. Nero's voice echoed softly. "It's as if the pyramid is guiding us somewhere." They followed the golden glow deeper until they reached a narrow passage that had been hidden behind a stone panel. The panel had shifted slightly since yesterday, leaving a small opening. Rami placed his hand on it. The stone felt warm and smooth, almost like skin. He pushed gently and the panel slid aside on its own. Behind it was a staircase spiraling downward. The steps were wide and carved with tiny glowing symbols that brightened as they walked. Leon looked at the steps carefully. Each of these symbols is part of a story. It tells about the creation of light and the first meeting between sky people and earth people. Rami smiled faintly. Then maybe this is their path of memory. The stairway led them to a grand chamber far below the surface. It was vast, larger than any room they had seen so far. The walls curved high overhead, filled with thousands of small golden lights like stars inside the earth. At the center of the room stood a massive column made of dark stone covered with bright golden lines. The lines moved and changed shape, forming patterns that reminded them of constellations. Tari's eyes widened. "It's a control system. This whole chamber is like the heart of the pyramid." Rami walked closer to the column. As he reached out, the golden lines on it brightened. The floor beneath them pulsed softly, sending waves of warm light outward. The pyramid was responding to his presence. Nero stepped back slightly. "It's recognizing us," he whispered. Leon's voice was calm but filled with wonder. It knows we are here. Maybe it was waiting for people like us. Suddenly, the golden current below began to rise through small openings in the floor, creating streams of light that floated around the room like ribbons. The streams twisted gently in the air, forming symbols that hovered above the column. The symbols then rearranged themselves into clear shapes, images of the same tall beings from the carvings, standing beside human figures. The golden light filled the chamber with soft warmth. Rami felt a vibration under his feet, not frightening but strong enough to make his heart race. "It's communicating," he said quietly. Leon nodded. "These symbols are repeating the same message from the other chamber. It's showing us how this place was built." The light changed again, and they saw a vision forming in the air. It showed the ancient Mayans working beside luminous beings. Together they shaped the pyramid, pouring liquid gold into stone molds, creating living patterns that glowed from within. Tari watched with awe. They used gold as an energy source. It was never just treasure, it was technology. The vision continued, showing the Mayans standing beneath a great beam of light rising from the pyramid into the stars. Then the image faded and the light dimmed. The room fell silent. The only sound was the soft hum that seemed to come from deep within the column. Rami spoke slowly. "So this pyramid is not only a temple, it's a bridge between the earth and something far beyond it." Leon added, "A communication device, maybe. They called the Golden River the Sunblood because it carried messages from the stars." Nero adjusted his camera. If that's true, it could still be working. The energy we're seeing might be part of that signal. Tari looked worried. But if it's been asleep for centuries and we woke it up, could that signal reach wherever it was meant to go? Before Rami could answer, the column began to glow more brightly. The golden veins on the walls expanded outward until the entire chamber shone. Then a deep, gentle tone filled the air, soft but powerful. The team stood still, watching as the floor shifted slightly. The golden current flowed up from the cracks, forming a pool around the base of the column. From that pool, shapes began to rise, glowing waves that looked almost like people made of light. They were tall and smooth, their faces calm and expressionless. Each one had eyes that shimmered like tiny suns. They did not speak with voices. Instead, the sound of the tone grew softer, forming words in their minds. "We remember you." Leon gasped softly. "It's talking to us." Rami could not move. The voice was clear inside his thoughts, peaceful and kind. "We built this with your ancestors. The river of light carries memory. It has waited for your return." Tari's hands trembled. "Return? They think we are their descendants." The figures of light turned their gaze toward the team. The golden pool around them rippled gently. The world above forgot the knowledge of the stars, the voice continued. "The light was hidden to protect life until you were ready to see again." Rami found his voice at last. "What is this place? Why did you build it here?" The answer came softly. "To remember. To keep alive the bond between your world and ours. The river is memory made solid, the thought of creation flowing through time." The light around the figures dimmed slowly until they faded back into the pool. The golden flow sank into the floor, leaving only a faint glow. The chamber returned to silence. Tari stared at the column, her voice shaking slightly. "We just spoke with something ancient, something not human but peaceful." "They were real," Leon wrote quickly in her notebook. "The Mayans must have built this to hold their knowledge and to preserve contact with these beings. They used gold because it could carry energy and thought together." Nairo looked up toward the ceiling, where the light still shimmered faintly like stars. "So the river isn't just energy, it's living memory." Rami nodded slowly. "And by finding it, we woke that memory again." The warmth in the air began to fade. They decided to return to the surface for the night. When they reached the upper tunnel, they noticed that the walls of the pyramid were brighter than before. The golden lines had spread through nearly every stone block. Outside, the jungle seemed unusually still. The trees were glowing faintly where their roots touched the ground, as if the golden energy below was reaching upward through the earth. Leon whispered, "The pyramid is sharing its power with the land." Rami looked around. "It's bringing life back. This forest will grow stronger now." They set up camp again and recorded all their notes. The sky above was clear and the stars looked sharper than before. Tari pointed upward. "Do you see that? The constellation near the horizon. It looks brighter tonight." Rami nodded. Maybe the signal reached the sky. For a long time, no one spoke. The air around them was peaceful. The hum beneath the ground had turned into a soft rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. Leon finally said, "If this place is truly a bridge, then maybe the ones who built it will return one day." Rami smiled faintly. "If they do, they'll find us waiting to learn, not to take." As they lay down to rest, golden fireflies drifted around the camp, glowing in gentle harmony with the pulse under the earth. The pyramid stood silent but alive, a sleeping giant that had begun to dream again. Before sleep took him, Rami thought about the golden figures and their words. The river of gold was not just a discovery, it was a message about humanity itself. The Mayans had known that humans were part of something far greater than they could understand. He whispered to himself, "We are not alone." "We never were," the hum in the ground answered softly, as if agreeing. Above the jungle, the first beam of dawn touched the pyramid's peak, and for a brief moment it glowed like pure light, shining through the mist, the ancient heart of a forgotten connection awakening once more. The night outside the pyramid was calm, but deep under the ancient stone walls the golden light kept moving like a living current. The explorers stood inside the main chamber, surrounded by soft light that danced on the walls. None of them spoke for a long moment. The air felt heavy, filled with something old yet alive. Rami's heart was beating fast. He looked at his team and saw both fear and wonder on their faces. Tari slowly raised her scanner again. The numbers were changing so fast that her device could not keep up. She whispered that the golden energy was showing readings far beyond anything found on Earth. The gold was not just metal. It was energy, light, and memory all together. Leanne moved closer to the carvings that now shone brightly. The shapes on the walls were moving slowly, like a picture that had come alive after centuries of sleep. The golden river below their feet began to rise again. This time it did not flow like before. Instead, it shaped itself into tall waves of light that formed symbols in the air. The team watched with wide eyes as the symbols turned into images. They could see people wearing old Mayan clothes standing beside tall figures made of light. The tall figures had long arms and glowing eyes. They were not human, but their presence did not feel harmful. It felt calm, almost kind. Rami realized they were watching a kind of memory, a message left inside the golden current. The figures in the light were showing how they once met the ancient Mayans. The visitors had come from the sky and had brought with them something called the sun blood, which was the golden energy. The Mayans learned how to use this gift not for power, but for learning and connection. They used it to build the pyramid not as a temple, but as a machine to store the knowledge of the stars. Leon spoke softly, saying the golden energy was not just alive, but aware. It had a mind of its own, and now it was trying to speak. The golden waves began to form a voice, soft at first, like wind passing through a flute. Then the sound became clear, turning into words the humans could understand. The voice said, "Children of the Sky Builders, you have come again." The team froze. Tari almost dropped her scanner. Rami took a step forward and asked who was speaking. The golden light pulsed gently before replying, "I am the memory of the river. I hold what was once given to your kind." Its voice sounded like hundreds of soft tones joining together. The golden river was alive, but it was more than life. It was intelligence preserved for thousands of years. The voice continued to show pictures of ancient times. It showed the sky filled with shining ships shaped like circles landing near the old cities. It showed people learning to use light instead of tools. It showed how the Mayans built the pyramid above the golden river to protect it. The voice explained that the river of gold was made to record everything it touched, from the thoughts of the sky visitors to the dreams of the humans who worked beside them. Rami asked why the river had stayed silent for so long. The golden voice replied, "The time of silence was chosen. Humans forgot their bond with the stars, so I waited. But now your world is waking again. You seek truth, and so I speak." The words echoed gently in the vast chamber. The explorers felt as if the light was speaking directly to their minds, not just their ears. Leanne slowly raised her tablet to record everything. She wanted to save every word, every image. But as she looked around, she realized the light could vanish at any moment. She could feel the river's energy growing unstable. Some of the golden streams were flickering. It was like a candle running out of wax. Tari warned that the energy was changing. The pyramid's old systems were not designed to stay active for long. The golden voice seemed to understand their concern. "The balance fades," it said. The golden flow weakens with the turning of the earth. Soon I will sleep again unless you choose. Rami frowned and asked what it meant by choose. The light around them brightened as if taking a deep breath. Then the voice explained that the pyramid's core could either be sealed again to let the river rest, or it could be reawakened fully, allowing the energy to return to the world. If they chose to reawaken it, the energy could teach humans many things: clean energy, healing, and connection between worlds. But if misused, it could also cause harm beyond imagination. The team looked at each other. It was a decision far bigger than any of them. They were only explorers, not leaders of nations or keepers of such power. Yet the choice had fallen to them because they were the ones who found the pyramid. Tari spoke first. She said humanity was struggling with many problems. The planet was getting weaker, and people were looking for new energy sources. The Golden River could save billions of lives. Lian shook her head gently and said that power always changes people. If this energy reached the wrong hands, it could be used to control or destroy. Rami stood silently, torn between their words. The golden voice said softly, "The builders once trusted your kind. You were meant to grow, to travel among the stars. But fear and greed made you forget. If you choose to awaken the river again, you must remember your purpose, not to rule, but to learn." The team could feel the meaning of those words deep inside them. It was not just a warning, but a reminder. Humanity had once been closer to the stars than they knew. The golden energy had been a bridge between worlds. Suddenly the ground began to tremble slightly. Cracks of light spread across the floor as the energy grew restless. The pyramid was reaching its limit. The golden river was too strong to stay trapped in an old structure. Tari shouted that they had to decide now. Rami closed his eyes for a moment, trying to calm his thoughts. He remembered why they came, not to take, but to understand. He looked up at the light and said in a steady voice, "We are not ready to hold such power, but we are ready to learn. Let the river rest until we can return as better keepers." The light dimmed slightly, as if thinking. Then the golden voice replied, "Wise choice, child of Earth. The memory will remain, waiting for the day your kind walks among the stars again." The waves of light began to lower slowly. The glowing walls faded, and the golden current moved back into the ground. The hum in the air softened until only silence remained. The explorers stood in the dim chamber, feeling both sadness and peace. The golden voice was gone, but its message stayed with them. The pyramid's carvings turned dull again, looking just like old stone, but the warmth in the air did not disappear. It was as if a small part of the golden river still lingered, watching them kindly. Lian looked at Rami and said softly that what they saw would change everything they knew about history. Rami nodded and told her they must protect this secret until the world was ready. Tari agreed and carefully shut down her scanner. They would take their notes, their recordings, and leave quietly. As they walked back through the tunnels, faint golden patterns glowed behind them for a moment, before fading completely. The pyramid had gone back to sleep, but its light had touched human hearts once more. When they reached the surface, dawn was breaking. The forest was silent except for the gentle sound of birds waking up. The team stood together, watching the sunlight spread across the trees. It looked almost like the golden glow of the river below. Rami smiled softly. He knew they had witnessed something that would remain part of them forever. Though they could not tell the whole world yet, they carried the truth inside them. That humanity had once been chosen by the stars, and someday they would rise again to meet that promise. The golden river now slept beneath the Mayan pyramid, hidden under layers of earth and stone. But deep below, a faint shimmer still pulsed in the darkness, waiting for the time when humanity would return, not with greed, but with wisdom and light. The soft morning light touched the top of the ancient pyramid, spreading a warm glow over the jungle. The air smelled fresh, and mist floated like a thin veil over the trees. Rami stood at the base of the pyramid with his team. None of them spoke for a while. The golden light that had filled the tunnels below was gone now, and only the calm sound of nature remained. But inside, each of them still felt the presence of the river of gold, as if it was still watching them from beneath the earth. Tari adjusted her backpack and looked at the pyramid's entrance. "It feels strange," she said quietly, "as if the whole place is breathing again." Rami nodded. He could still feel a faint vibration through the ground, a reminder that the pyramid was alive even in its sleep. Leon was sitting on a stone near the camp, writing in her field journal. Her hands trembled slightly. She was trying to record every detail before it faded from memory. Their camp looked small beside the Grand Pyramid. The sunlight touched the golden symbols on the outer stones, making them shine faintly. Birds began to fly above the forest, and a few monkeys moved between the branches, curious about the humans below. Everything around them felt peaceful, but their minds were full of thoughts. Rami knew they could not stay forever. The pyramid had spoken to them and trusted them with a choice. They had decided to let the Golden River sleep again, but now they had another question to answer. What would they do with what they had seen? Should they share it with the world, or keep it hidden until the right time? Tari broke the silence. If we tell people what we found, she said, governments and companies will rush here. They will dig and take and try to control it. She looked worried. The Golden River will not stay safe. Leon closed her journal and replied softly, but hiding it feels wrong too. This knowledge could help everyone. It could change how we understand our past and maybe save our future. Rami listened to them both. He understood their fears. He also knew the world was not ready for such power. People might see only the gold and not the message it carried. He thought of the voice that had called them children of the sky builders. It had spoken with kindness and hope. It wanted humanity to grow, not to fight over treasure. As they discussed, the sunlight grew stronger. Rami walked a few steps away and looked at the forest spreading endlessly around them. He thought about how small humans were compared to the universe, yet how much potential they carried. The golden voice had said that one day humans would return to the stars. Maybe that day was far away, but perhaps their discovery was the first step toward it. Leon walked up beside him. Do you think the river trusted us? She asked. Rami smiled gently. I think it did. It let us see its heart and hear its memory. That means it believes we can learn. He looked back at the pyramid. We have to protect that trust. Later that day, the team packed their tools carefully. Tari buried some of the equipment that had absorbed too much golden energy. She said it was safer to leave it here where it belonged. Leon sealed the recordings inside a small metal box. She planned to take only a copy of the files, while the original would stay hidden under a marked stone near the pyramid. Rami helped her bury it, pressing his hand over the soil when they finished. When the sun reached the top of the sky, they were ready to leave. The pyramid stood silent behind them, looking ancient yet somehow new. It seemed to shine from within, though no one could see the Golden River anymore. The team started walking through the forest trail they had used before. Birds called above them and the air was filled with the sound of life. As they moved deeper into the jungle, Tari asked, Do you think we will ever come back here? Rami replied, Maybe not us, but someone will. When the time is right, the river will call again. Leon looked at him with a thoughtful expression. And when that happens, I hope the world will be wiser. It took them hours to reach the small base where their transport waited. The old camp radio crackled to life as they sent their message for pickup. While waiting, they sat in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. The discovery they made would stay with them forever. It was not just about gold or ancient history. It was about humanity's forgotten connection with the stars. When the helicopter arrived, the wind from its blades blew dust and leaves across the ground. The sound echoed through the trees, waking a few birds that flew away in surprise. Rami looked one last time toward the direction of the pyramid. He could not see it anymore, hidden by the forest, but he felt its presence. He whispered softly, Sleep well, old guardian. We will remember. As they lifted off, the forest spread beneath them like a green ocean. From above, the pyramid was just a small shape among the trees, almost invisible. Yet if someone looked carefully, they might see a faint golden shimmer running through the soil near it. The river was still there, alive and waiting. Back at their research base, the team was welcomed by other scientists. They asked many questions, but Rami kept the answers simple. He said they had found an old Mayan structure with unique materials, but needed more study before sharing results. He knew the truth was too powerful to release so quickly. Over the next few days, Tari and Leon worked quietly to organize their notes. They made sure every file was safe but hidden behind secure codes. Rami contacted a few trusted researchers who believed in ethical exploration. He told them only that he had found something that could change history one day, and asked them to protect the records if anything happened to him. At night, Rami often stood outside, looking at the stars. They looked brighter now, as if the sky itself had opened up a little more since the day in the pyramid. He wondered if the beings of light from the Golden River were still out there, watching humanity. Maybe they were waiting for humans to remember the lessons they once shared, lessons of balance, unity, and wisdom. A week later, a quiet storm passed over the jungle. Heavy rain fell on the pyramid, washing away their footprints and covering the signs of digging. The earth sealed itself naturally, as if protecting the secret once again. Underneath, the Golden River pulsed softly. It seemed to breathe in rhythm with the falling rain, peaceful and alive. In a small town nearby, Rami and his team rested before heading home. They sat together one evening under the open sky. The air smelled of rain and earth. Tari smiled and said, "I keep hearing the sound of the river in my dreams." "It's like music," Leanne nodded. "Maybe it's telling us not to forget." Rami looked at them both and replied, "We won't. The Golden River chose us for a reason." They talked late into the night about what they had learned. They spoke of the courage of the ancient Mayans who had built the pyramid, not for riches but for knowledge. They spoke of the golden beings who had trusted humans long ago, and they spoke of hope, that someday humanity would reach the stars again, not as conquerors but as learners and friends. When morning came, they packed their things and prepared to return home. As they left the small town, Rami looked out the window and saw the jungle shining under the new sun. Somewhere under those trees, the river of gold still flowed quietly. It had seen centuries pass and would wait for many more, holding the story of human and star together. The world above would continue to move on. People would build cities, travel in space, and search for answers. But one day, when humanity was ready to understand instead of take, the Golden River would wake again. It would rise through the pyramid and speak once more, reminding the children of Earth that they were always meant to reach beyond the sky. Rami closed his eyes and smiled as the car moved forward. The future felt bright, not because of power or gold, but because of wisdom and hope. Somewhere deep beneath the jungle, the Golden River shimmered in the dark, waiting for the time when humanity would return, guided not by greed, but by light.